Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my, I'm gonna call it diverse channel. I know I put a whole bunch of crap on here, but I never started YouTube to make money. I actually started it so I would have a recording of my kids as they were growing up. But then I noticed as YouTube's come along, there's a lot of help on there. So that's more what I tried to turn mine into. So if I find something that I'd never found on YouTube to help me, I try and put it on there. So that's what this video is about. I'm an old guy. This is the first boat I've ever owned. Been on boats, grew up in Florida, but I never owned one. So now at this age, I'm learning. Everything's brand new. So anyway, if you're on this video, it's because you want to find out if you can get your shifter to work right on your tiller handle outboard. My particular one is a 99 Mercury 25 two-stroke. And I found some videos with stuff that I thought would help, but then when I took mine apart, it didn't help. So anyway, if you're here because you have a shift problem with a tiller motor, hopefully I'll be able to help. So what happened was I took this boat out twice. The first time it did fine. The second time it did fine until I went back to the boat ramp to drop a friend off, and then it wouldn't go into reverse. It just stopped going into reverse. It would only go into forward. So then I'm like, well, I counted my blessings and said, I'll go ahead and load my boat since I'm right here at the ramp. I got back home, started looking on YouTube for help, and I found some videos, but none that ended up helping me. There's a lot of them out there for shift problems, and a lot of people had just changed their water pump impeller, which I did. This boat sat for, I think, about 10 years, 9 to 10 years. Well, it wasn't registered for 9, it probably sat longer than that, but so it wasn't running when I got it. So I changed the impeller. And I had maybe 2 hours on the boat, not even 2 hours. And then the shifter thing was bad. So I thought it might've had something to do with that. After digging into it though, I don't think that the impeller had anything to do with it. But anyway, I just noticed that was a common thing among people. So what I did was once I got home, I took the lower foot off, lower unit, whatever you call it, the bottom piece. I took that off because I had found a video that said you could adjust your shift rod by screwing it in or out, which makes total sense. And it was a great video. It tells the distance it needs to be. That way you know where to go. But when I took my 99 Mercury 25 two-stroke apart, my rod did not turn. I put vice grips on it and everything because I don't have any experience. I didn't think it was seized up, but I didn't want to keep going until I bent or broke something. I talked to a boat guy and he said some of those are pinned in the bottom, so there's no adjustment there. So then I was like, well, what now? And then after talking to my good buddy Sean, who, if you happen to watch my other boat video, who helped me get this running, he's the boat guy that I know that's pretty good. After talking to him, he came by and he told me about, sorry, it's windy out here. He told me about the linkage that I'll show you a close-up, but it's right down here. That's the linkage from your tiller handle. It goes through the shift rod and then goes down and does all the stuff it does. That's pretty complicated, all that stuff with the shifting. So anyway, he told me about that, and that's what I ended up messing with. So one thing I noticed about my shift rod, once I pulled the pin out, and I'll show you that. There's a lot of other videos that show you about pulling the pin, and pulling the starter and all that to get to it. This one is an electric start. But once I pulled that pin out and I put the tiller handle in neutral, I looked back at it before I removed the lower unit, and the shift rod that has the hole in it for the pin to go through, that goes through that plastic dog that goes, that you pin it to, it goes like this and the hole goes through. It was at least a whole size difference off. It was a whole hole off. So that's why I thought when I first took it apart, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, cool, I need to turn that rod down. It's adjusted too far. But of course, then I found out that I couldn't adjust it. So now we're back to where Sean came over. Sean came over and said, hey, you can probably adjust this linkage and that'll move that dog. So that's what I did. I'll zoom in and show you what I did, but that way you understand. But what I ended up doing was, after I had taken the lower foot off and figured out that's what I was going to adjust, I needed the foot back on there and the shift rod back in place to figure out how far I needed to adjust it. So I reinstalled the lower unit, the foot, whatever, they interchanged for me. I'm probably saying it wrong. The bottom piece with the prop. I put it on, and I had it, of course, the foot was in neutral, and then I had the tiller handle in neutral. And as I looked, as I said, the hole was like a whole, complete hole distance off. So I started adjusting the rod that I'm about to show you. And what it did is it moved that dog down, and I ended up moving it, adjusting it to where those holes lined up perfectly. I put the pin back in, and then I started messing with the tiller handle. It went right into reverse. It went right to neutral. It went to forward gear. And it felt better than it's felt since I've owned the boat, because none of that was adjusted when I changed the impeller. It's always been that far off since I've owned it. So, but it feels really good. So hold on a second. I'm gonna get my flashlight and the phone over there and see if I can show you, on the phone, in the video, pretty good what I did. Okay, so you can see it pretty good. I have my flashlight, but you can see it. This right here, where you see this yellow line, is the linkage for the shifter. So I put that yellow line on it so I could know when I was back at the top. So I popped this off of there, just take a screwdriver and this pops off. There's no clips or anything. I loosened the jam nut and I started rotating this. The direction I needed to go was in, but I rotated this thing 6 full times at least, maybe 7, I lost count. But I went in quite a bit. And I got it to where it would line up over here. This is where I was talking about. Let's see, we may have to, okay, you can see it in there, but I'm gonna turn on my light. Okay, you can see the shift rod below that white piece of plastic. Well, that white piece of plastic is the shift pin, and it goes through that black piece, which is what I'm calling the dog, where the pin lines up. So I adjusted it to where the hole in that black plastic piece lined up to the shift rod perfectly. Hopefully y'all can see that in there. But once I adjusted this out to where those holes lined up, I put that pin back in with it. Everything was with it in neutral, both of them. I was making sure the prop was in neutral also, while the shift rod was in neutral. And once I got everything lined up and put the shift pin back in and started playing with the tiller, it will go into reverse now. It goes into forward, it goes into neutral, and it feels a lot better than it has since I've owned it. So again, sometimes my explanations get too much and can even be confusing because I overdo it, but I hope this helps. This is one thing, I couldn't find that about anything. I didn't know anything about this linkage until my buddy Sean came over and told me. I mean, I saw there was linkage in there, but he's like, hey, this here's the shifter stuff. And so it made total sense, but it worked great. I haven't started the motor yet, but it should be fine. It wouldn't even go into gear, like just sitting there, like even spinning the prop by hand, it wouldn't go. It was definitely out of alignment. So hopefully this helps. If it does, cool. If not, sorry I wasted your time on the video. All right, have a good one.